BBOR, Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. And yes, today is another Zodiac Killer upload. We are continuing onward with our discussions about Gareth Penn and his book, Time 17. As you'll see, this is part of a multi-part series. I hope you'll listen to every single one, but if you're just jumping in, that's fine. You can keep listening because we're just talking about Gareth Penn and some of the ideas that he had about the Zodiac Killer, as well as his prime suspect, Michael O'Hare. In this part of the book, we can say that Gareth Penn introduces some new mathematical findings that he believes he has found in the Zodiac Killer mystery. Gareth Penn even instructs you to do it this way. Close your eyes, and in your mind's eye, imagine the Zodiac symbol. The circle with the cross going through it. I want you to do that right now. We'll follow along with Gareth Penn and what he recommends. How many parts are in the circle that is divided? There should be 4, right? A circle with a cross going through it gives you 4 parts. What's the mathematical symbol associated with that? The 4th letter of the alphabet is D, right? And this can be translated into Morse code as 100. Almost like a perfect 100. And then in binary, the number 4 can also be represented as 100. So Gareth Penn says here in this book, Time 17, meaning that the reason why the Zodiac Killer symbol was chosen is because it actually has a mathematical piece of significance. It's a perfect 100. But not only that, when Gareth Penn's suspect, Michael O'Hare, was at Harvard University from 1960 to 1964, during his final year, 1964, he became involved with a place called the Carpenter Center, which was dedicated to visual arts. One of the things that I did not know about Michael O'Hare prior to just reading this segment here is that not only was he involved with many different things in the math world, he was also a visual artist. And Gareth Penn even provides a picture of one of Michael O'Hare's artistic creations. Michael O'Hare also wrote an article about the Carpenter Center because, as we said in one of the previous segments, Michael O'Hare was the editor of the Cambridge 38. 38 is, of course, the zone code for Cambridge, Massachusetts, and it is also significant to the, I guess you just say Gareth Penn's mathematical theory. The 2 biggest numbers are 17 and 38, meaning, and the reason why he uses the number 38 is it ties into the date of the Lake Berryessa stabbing, which is also mathematically linked to Michael O'Hare's mother's 38th birthday, and we've mentioned that in some of the previous segments. So what I can say about this is, what does Gareth Penn have to say about Michael O'Hare's visual art? I want to tell you his exact words. The art that was created by Michael O'Hare that was featured at the Carpenter Center and that is mentioned in this article here written by O'Hare is a set of circles and segments of circles. What do you see in the Zodiac symbol? A circle and segments. 4 segments of a circle, right? Okay, is that a mathematical clue? I don't know, Gareth, but I mean, that is something that he genuinely does provide in the book. Now, when we're on that subject, I would actually like to read something directly from the book, from Time 17 by Gareth Penn. And the 2 people that he's going to be talking about this are individuals named Charles Duggan as well as Howard Berman. As it happened, I just received a copy of the latest San Francisco Regional Mensa roster. Of the members, while we were talking, I leafed through the B's and found Howard Berman. He was not to be found. I wrote it off. I made an arrangement to meet with Berman and Duggan to save them the trouble of having to drive all the way to Napa from the South Bay, where they lived. I proposed meeting in Vallejo at the Wharf, a seaside restaurant overlooking Mare Island Strait. By coincidence, the day on which we met was December 26th, 1981, the anniversary of my discovery of the radian. In the meantime, it had occurred to me that the Julian date of December 26th is 360. And by that he means we of course have 365 days in a year, right? And then December 26th would be the 360th day. But let's see what he has to say about it. It seemed very appropriate. Another curious coincidence. Okay, look what we just said there. I mean, there's no way Michael O'Hare would have ever figured out unless he had magical psychic powers, that Gareth Penn would have figured out the thing about the radiant theory on December 26th of 1980, and that he would do something on December 26th of 1981, nor does Gareth Penn say that in the book. Just being very clear, he didn't. His point is, hey, look, a coincidence that works out mathematically. If that is a coincidence, and Gareth Penn can so easily accept that, what about all this other stuff in the book? It's like, Gareth Penn, why did you write this book? I mean, the stuff about the date of the Lake Berryessa stabbing linking up to the birthday of Michael O'Hare's mother. You know, it's like 9745 was her 38th birthday, and there were 9,745 days in Michael O'Hare's age on December 27th of 1969. That's an impressive mathematical achievement. I've said that throughout this whole thing. But at the same time, if Gareth Penn is just like, hey, look, we're meeting on December 26th, everything's coming full circle. What a coincidence. Well, okay, how about some of this stuff in the Zodiac mystery? I mean, now, I don't really want to put Gareth Penn down or anything. It's just, when he was writing it like that, that's my genuine first reaction. It feels like there is just a bit of not only stretching the truth, not only a little bit of hot air, but it just seems like, is that just what Gareth Penn is doing? Is he grossly overthinking the situation? Is he grossly trying to force this idea of mathematical signatures onto the Zodiac mystery? And in short, he's just kind of connecting dots there that really shouldn't be connected. In short, he's trying to force a pattern onto the subject that doesn't actually exist. I'm not 100% sure. It could be possible that Gareth Penn is just spot on and right about everything. I do not know everything 100%, but I think it's rather bizarre that he just accepts something in his own life as, hey, what a funny coincidence. Well, what about some of these other mathematical achievements that you have written about in the book? Now, when we're dealing with this part of the book here, in this segment, they also introduced something that I said I had wanted to talk about, which was the fact that there could be murders in the Zodiac mystery that would extend outside of California and into Massachusetts. But I believe when we introduced the book, I believe the dates that Gareth Penn provided for us were from 1966 to 1981. And they were talking about the murder of Joan Webster in this one, someone that was murdered in Massachusetts. And somebody tells Gareth Penn flat out that this has the Zodiac written all over that. And I'm going to go here to this page in the book, and we'll just read that paragraph. He said that this story had Zodiac written all over it. I asked him what made him say that, and he responded that it was obvious. The victim had been a graduate student at Harvard in the field of architecture. Michael O'Hare had ties to the architecture department at Harvard going back to 1960. He had 2 architecture degrees from Harvard. It couldn't be clearer. Hadn't I seen anything in the California media news about her? I said. And I said that I hadn't. He said that you couldn't hear about anything else in Boston. I asked him what was the victim's name, and he told me that she was called Joan Webster. Excuse me for misreading a couple lines there, but one of the things that he is specifying is perhaps he's saying that Michael O'Hare's degrees were in architecture, and he also mentions that's one of the reasons why he was interested in visual arts. Please forgive me if I said at the beginning that Michael O'Hare's bachelor's degree would have been in mathematics. Maybe I misquoted him on something like that. I don't think that detail is too important, but we would still like to be very precise. But yes, that is one of the reasons why Michael O'Hare was involved with the visual arts. And as we said, he likes circles and segments of circles. And well, Okay, and there is a circle in the zodiac symbol, and in short, I mean, Gareth Penn's saying that all of these things are signatures, and there's meaning in everything that the zodiac does. Now, this brings us to the 340 cipher. I mean, Gareth Penn has talked a lot about it, but I can't really say by reading through this that I feel that he has actually written out something that, okay, here's my possible solution in this part of the book here. But he definitely thinks that it's sort of divided up into chunks. And what Gareth Penn does say is the clue to this one is Morse code. In all reality, he's like saying that the reason why people have not cracked it is because it's a Morse code message. When we want to talk about the 340 cipher, back when we were doing the uploads on Thomas Henry Horn and in our interview with Thomas Henry Horn that we have here on this channel, I highly recommend you check that out if you haven't heard it yet. He says very clearly that the symbols that the Zodiac Killer was using come from a language in the Philippines from the region of Mindanao, the Mindanao Islands and the Philippine Islands. It's like, now, I was talking about this in the comments section a little bit, but I haven't exactly mentioned it here on the upload, so I thought it would be a good time to talk about it now. He said they're from Mindanao in the Philippines. I know somebody from Mindanao in the Philippines, so I just sent her the 340 cipher, and I said, do you recognize this at all? And her response was, no, what is this? And like, she had never even heard of the Zodiac Killer. Then I explained, so I was like, do you recognize like any of the symbols? And she said a rather insightful statement saying, no, I don't, but I can tell that it's a puzzle. And I'm like, how can you tell that it's a puzzle? And she's like, well, look at it. If you look at, just pull up the 340 cipher or something, some of the Zodiac ciphers on Google, but looking at the 340 right now, she's like, look, some of these letters are English letters, but they're just written in reverse. And you look down, you're like, okay, yeah, J and D and F, I can see all of those. They're just written in reverse. She's like, obviously it's something with a hidden meaning. And I'm like, but you've never seen these symbols before? And she's like, no. And then I mentioned that I was told that they were of Filipino origin. So what we did was we went through some different ones, and she's sending me things and I'm sending her things. There are countless Filipino writing styles. I'm just sort of sharing some stuff right now off on a tangent. It's not from Gareth Penn, but it's just from a possibility about the solutions to the Zodiac 340 cipher. And what we kind of came to the conclusion was all of the things we found look absolutely nothing like this. I was rather disappointed, not even close. I mean, the only thing that I can say is that there are many, many, many Filipino writing scripts, and one of them even looks like Arabic letters. It's actually based on the Arabic alphabet, and it's been modified in some ways, but what I would say about that is just that I didn't see anything that came kind of close to the Filipino things from Mindanao that these things supposedly are. So then, do we say that Gareth Penn is perhaps going down the right pathway with some of this, and that these things are going to be more about Morse code? I'm really starting to wonder if the 340 cipher really contains any meaning at all, or that it's just some type of intentionally deceptive material. But Gareth Penn does write in the book Times 17 that the ACA, the American Cryptographers Association, made a claim to the Zodiac Killer. No, you put out a real cipher. Like, put out something that just genuinely hides your identity. Just like my name is, sort of. Put out something like that. No, make it as difficult as you want, and someone will try to break it. Someone from the American Cryptographers Association. So far, of course, the Zodiac did not respond to something like that. There's a high chance the Zodiac Killer wouldn't even have been aware of something from the ACA, but I just thought that was an interesting challenge as well. One of the other possibilities about the 340 cipher is, and I heard this on a documentary in maybe 2011 or something, I don't even know who the person was. It's been so many years ago, and I can't tell you the name of the documentary that I saw back that far, but they were saying that to solve the 340, it's three segments, but they are written out of order. It's like the bottom lines are the first part, and then the middle lines are the concluding part. And like, you know what I mean? Like three things that you have to separate it into thirds. Then you have to put the pieces in the right order. and then it will make sense and it can be a code that can be deciphered. In short, that's the reason why it was never cracked, is because it was cut into thirds and put in the improper order, so it just comes out really weird. I don't really know if that's true or not, but just having a little bit of a rant about those things there. But I was really glad in this part of the book that they could at least even mention the possibility that other Zodiac murders that could have taken place outside of California, talking about the murder of Joan Webster. What I would say is maybe we can look at the murder of Joan Webster independently, because at this point, I would like to say, I've had a good time talking to you guys about Gareth Penn and his theories on the Zodiac, but I think that there is some genuinely impressive mathematical work here that Gareth Penn has done. I also think that some of it is just a little bit silly, and I really don't want to put it down, but I'm just like, this is just too much. Like, it's too much beyond belief, really. And one of the things I would like to say now is I do have a copy of Zodiac Unmasked. I found it online, and we have completed our first segment here of Gareth Penn's book. Time 17 was divided into 4 segments. Maybe we'll get back to the segments 2, 3, and 4, but we've completed part 1. And then we will probably be starting a discussion on Zodiac Unmasked by Robert Graysmith. So that will be our next Zodiac book that is going to be up. Like I said, I'd like to get back into some of this Gareth Penn stuff in the future, but I think we've really said a lot about some of the hard pieces of evidence that he puts forward. But what we haven't done is really found something that is just like, oh my goodness, that's like that moment of awe and wonder. Like the aha moment when you're like, that's it. All of this stuff is linked together mathematically. In part 1 of his book, I would say that Gareth Penn did not come close to convincing me on that. About the radiant theory, yes, absolutely. But as I told Thomas Henry Horan, the Zodiac told us to do that. Bear in mind, that is not Gareth Penn's own original idea. The Zodiac mentioned it in the letters that he was supposed to do that, and very specifically, one line of the radian goes to Blue Rock Springs, and the other line goes to the Paul Stein murder in Presidio Heights, where that would have taken place, Washington and Cherry Street, and so on. And the place that's in the middle of the radian, if you were to draw a 90-degree angle, would be Lake Berryessa. Lake Berryessa is equidistant from Mount Diablo, as is Travis Air Force Base, meaning that perhaps you're looking for somebody in the Air Force. Okay, I follow all that, but the Zodiac told us to do that. And then the next thing to say is about Michael O'Hare and these mathematical signatures. I feel that it is really pushing the boundaries of creativity. And, I mean, as a creative project, I think that this could be absolutely amazing. Like, that's one way to look at it. An amazing creative work that Gareth Penn has created. But if he's actually talking about the real Zodiac Killer, I don't know about that. I would definitely say, though, that as we conclude part 1 of our discussions of part 1 of Gareth Penn's book, rather, I would say that I definitely would agree with whoever wrote that comment on Wikipedia that Gareth Penn would have been a better choice for a Zodiac movie than Robert Graysmith. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Like, this guy is just like getting lost in the world of numbers and all these different possibilities. And as we said in one of the parts, someone even described him as paranoid. Oh, I would love to see a movie about Time 17, like the meta story, the story of how the story was written. I would love to see some of this, let alone that this researcher becomes a Zodiac Killer suspect himself. And then always the shadow over him. Did he actually do this? And, you know, legal trouble that's going to come in the future from going after Michael O'Hare. So, I think that's where we're going to have to leave part 1 of the book. But we will come back to this in the future at some point, I tell you. And please look out for our future discussions on Robert Graysmith and Zodiac Unmasked. Once again, can't guarantee how many uploads we will do on that one, but it should be a multi-part series, and we can keep discussing the Zodiac Killer and some of the material that has been published about the murders in 1968 and 69, as well as other possible murders that could be connected to the Zodiac. That's all for me now, and until next time.